Hi, and welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. We got a great show tonight. We have a great show every week, but tonight's really special for me because I love all sports, but hockey is my thing. So we've got a great guest tonight. Let's bring on real quickly my co-host, the Rattler, former Florida A&M national championship quarterback and voice of the Rattlers basketball and football telecasts, Al Chester.
Les, how you doing? Happy Throwback Thursday.
I'm telling you, Al, how's things down in Jacksonville?
And we're trying to keep it in the middle of the road down here. A little chilly, but we had a warm day yesterday, so we're going to see how long it hangs out.
Hey, listen, Al, you're in Florida. Chilly for you is a warm day for me. So let's get right to it. So we're going to have Tony run our guest reel, and then we'll bring on today's special guest right after.
Here's Roenick in on goal. Shoots, he scores! Roenick! Back to the point, Chelios for Larmer. Pass right in front of chance here, they score!
Now lets it go, and a save by Malarchuk. Rebound, Roenick gets him down, he shoots, he scores! Jeremy Roenick faked as if he's going to shoot it on the backhand. Malarchuk went for a swim. Roenick pulled it to the forehand and tucked it in. A great move by the Chicago centerman. It's 4-1 Hawks.
All righty, let's welcome in nine-time NHL All-Star and one of the greatest American-born hockey players ever, Jeremy Roenick.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
JR, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Al. Good to be with you guys.
Yeah, Jeremy, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this show. I'm a hockey guy. We've got the Roenick jersey.
I just got a thumbs down. Is that you giving me the thumbs down?
Oh, that definitely wouldn't be me. You're all thumbs up with me. That's all I got to say. We got the Roenick jersey. We're rocking the Roenick jersey behind me with the Chicago Blackhawks, which is pretty much, I know you played for 5 teams, but you really identified really as a Blackhawk, I would think. What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, I think any team that you get drafted by is going to be a little bit more special than the others. I spent 8.5 years in Chicago, and obviously had my most illustrious production years in Chicago. But I identify as a Philadelphia Flyer also in a huge way. I lived in Arizona for 25 years, played for them for 6. Had 2 amazing years in San Jose to finish my career. And even though I didn't play well in LA, they treated me like I was one of their own. But yeah, definitely Chicago is kind of the big heart and soul type of feeling, because they took a chance on me in 1988 by drafting me 8th overall when I was only 150 pounds as a high school kid. And that time in the 80s, the National Hockey League didn't draft USA high school kids. It was pretty much a no-go in the National Hockey League, but they drafted me and took a chance.
So I just have a question. At the very beginning, Al, I know you got Al's done his research on you. I just got to tell you right now. But growing up in Boston, I know you bounced around a little bit, but you were born in Boston and predominantly grew up in Boston in your teenage years. Were you a Bruins fan? Who was your favorite player? Like, who did you pat in your game after? And like me, are you a Bobby Orr? Like, is Bobby Orr your guy?
Well, obviously Boston was a big part of my life. I grew up and down the Eastern Seaboard. I was born in Boston, but lived in Connecticut. So the Hartford Whalers were a big part of my life. Gordie Howe was a big part of my life. I also had season tickets early in my life to the New York Rangers. I moved out to Virginia, had season tickets for the Capitals.
Wow.
So, but growing up in Boston, Rick Middleton was my guy. I just loved watching Rick Middleton. Watching his hair flying. Nifty Ricky was his nickname, and I kind of resonated more towards him. Obviously, Bobby Orr is an icon. He changed the position forever. He's one of the few players that could play in any generation with the way that he skated and the way that he possessed the puck. But I was just a hockey fan, and wherever I went, I seemed to gravitate to that team and certain players from that team. Dennis Maruk in the Capitals I was a big fan. Rod Langway.
Randolph Mass's own Rod Langway.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just a huge hockey fan, and but if I had to go to one idol, it was Rick Middleton.
Okay.
Well, JR, I tell you what, man, I've done a little homework on you, man, and I'm very impressed. You mentioned already that you played in Chicago, Phoenix, Philly, San Jose, and LA. But tell us about the time during the lockout season when you played over in Germany in 94 and 95.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did have these unfortunate lockouts where we just couldn't get a bargaining agreement agreed to between the Players Association and the National Hockey League, and the shutdowns lasted an entire season. And there's just no way in the middle of my career could I just take an entire year off in 1994 and just think that I was going to come back and be the same type of player. So my agent found a place for me to play in Germany. My whole family is German. My grandparents are from Germany right off the boat. And so as being part of my heritage and part of my roots, I thought it would be pretty cool to go back and play in the country that my grandparents grew up in. And at the time, Germany was one of the up and coming new European leagues. So for me to be able to go out over there and experience European hockey was pretty special. I didn't stay long. Obviously, it was more of a promotional stint, but I had a lot of fun and met a lot of new friends from it.
Now, I know we talked about
Outstanding.
it. And I know you talked about it when we first came on, about American-born players. When you were drafted, it was kind of out of the norm, American-born players. There was really a Canadian league, and then the Soviets, I think, came in the late 80s, and the European flavor really started hitting the Swedes, the Finns, the Czechs, things like that. But when you were drafted, were you surprised you were drafted like so high and right out of their academy, or did you think that you were going to have to play at Boston College or play a Canadian juniors before you were drafted that high?
Well, it was kind of up in the air. At that time, again, I was a high school junior coming into the draft. You're exactly right. The National Hockey League did not draft high school kids in the United States. Mike Modano was the number one pick in my year. He is an American kid, but he played in the Canadian Junior League. He
Prince Albert Raiders.
He played for Prince Albert, and he chose to go up to Canada. That's a whole different ballgame when you're looking at the National Hockey League. They're going to look at an American kid a lot different. Mike Modano was bigger, stronger, faster, more developed because he was playing in the Canadian Junior League. So they were more apt to draft a player that was playing in Major Junior. Because the style of play was more compatible with the National Hockey League and closer to the level of a National Hockey League. For a high school kid, the National Hockey League just did not look very highly on that league. It was way behind the World Junior Leagues. Although I did dominate the high school ranks, and at that time I was 155 pounds, but I was so fast and so talented that the Chicago Blackhawks were scouting me and scouting me hard, as were 4 or 5 other teams, Quebec Nordiques being another one, who had actually 2 picks in the first round, number 3 and number 5. They took a defenseman named Curtis Lecision at number 3. And I thought for sure I was going to be number 5 going to Quebec because I talked to them quite extensively before the draft. They happened to probably take the worst pick in NHL history and picked Daniel Doré, who was actually a fighter in the Quebec League. He was a fighter in the Quebec League, never played a game in the National Hockey League, which is a bust of a 5 pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was very fortunate to go to an original 6 team in Chicago. And the story is funny because I was literally up in Montreal the night before the draft, and I did a meeting with the Chicago Blackhawks in their suite at their hotel the night before. And they do all these, these mental questions on you to find out what kind of character you have, what kind of mentality you have. They asked me to get on a scale, and I said no, because my agent said, whatever you do, don't get on a scale. I'm literally 155 pounds. If they see me at 150, I already look small, but I wore extra big clothes, so I looked a little bit bigger, padded myself up a little bit, so I looked a little bit bigger in these meetings. And I wouldn't step on a scale. And they asked me why not, and I said, well, I've never seen a scale score a goal or win a game. So what does a scale matter?
Nice.
It's about the fight in the dog, not the dog in the fight. So it was kind of an interesting meeting. And that same night, my family and I are out to dinner, and Mike Keenan, who was the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, who was also in that meeting, happened to walk into the bathroom when I was standing at the urinal going to the bathroom. And we looked at each other. He's like, hey, you're the kid we just interviewed today, for the draft tomorrow. Very interesting meeting, right? He says, so now it's just me and you. Why should I draft you? I said, because all I do is win. I've won in everything I've ever done. And you want a guy who's going to compete. You want a guy who can score goals, do everything on the ice, then draft me. And he looks at me and goes, "You got any balls, kid?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of an interesting place to ask me if I have balls." And, you know, I mean, if it means getting drafted, I'll show you, but, you know, just draft me tomorrow. So it was kind of a funny little, anecdote, but it really happened. And the next day, it was really, really interesting. I come to find out later in my career, later in the year, a scout, our head scout, his name is Jack Davison, and his assistant, Sean Cody, who was actually from Boston. Sean Cody was a scout for Chicago and Boston. Right before the draft, they were getting ready to lock down their choice as a team. And Jack Davidson and Sean Cody looked at Bob Pulford, who was the GM, and said, "If you don't draft Jeremy Roenick at number 8, if we have the chance to get him, we quit. We're done with this team. This is how much we believe in him. He's our guy, and he's who I'm the head scout of Chicago Blackhawks. If you don't draft Jeremy Roenick, then we quit. We resign." And they picked me, and I come to find that out. And now I'm playing for myself, but I'm also playing for the two guys who put their careers behind my name. And, that was a really good catapult for me and confidence moving forward. And, again, it was a crazy whirlwind summer for me, because then it just went on to where I'm supposed to be going into my my senior year of high school, but that would have just deterred myself from being able to go to the National Hockey League faster. So I tried to accelerate out of school, tried to sign a contract. Chicago Blackhawks wouldn't offer me more than $100,000 my first year. And we said no. But back then,
was that a lot of money, Jeremy? $100,000 for a player?
No. I mean, for my dad was making $85,000. So I think that my first year was $95,000 that they offered me. My dad was making $85,000 in his job. So, back then, $95,000 is a lot, but not as pro sports go. I decided to, because I took summer classes at BC, my high school gave me my entire senior year's credits worth, and I graduated September 1st. And because I was at a contract impasse with Chicago, I decided I was going to go to college. So I showed up at BC on a Saturday morning, moved into my dorm, had a great time Saturday night, had a great time Sunday night, and ended up going to my first class on Monday. It was at 9:00, and I found out what a syllabus was. And 5 minutes into my first class, the syllabus forced me to stand up and walk out of the class, call my agent, and accept the $95,000 that the Chicago Blackhawks were offering. And literally 24 hours later, I was playing in my first inter squad scrimmage in Chicago.
Amazing.
That's a great story. That's a classic story, man. I tell you what.
There are a lot of things that happened in that 24 hours that are both really funny and really scary. But it was, I almost got killed on Madison Avenue. My agent almost got run over by a CTA bus. I was mistaken for a stick boy in the Chicago Blackhawks locker room.
Oh my God.
And I saw Al Secord naked, which totally horrified me.
All I know about Al Secord
and the decision to draft this guy.
I've never seen
this guy was made.
Yeah, I've never seen
in the bathroom.
Yeah, I've never seen a grown man look like that naked. More hair on him than Sasquatch. Sasquatch would take pictures of this guy. He had a receding hairline, no teeth. Scariest man I've ever seen up to that time.
He could throw down though. He could throw some fisticuffs back in the day.
One of the best teammates I've ever had. And being one of the toughest to ever play the National Hockey League, Al Secord is only one of 3 Blackhawks in the history of the Chicago Blackhawks that scored 50 goals. Right. One of 3, which is a pretty amazing stat when you think about it.
And one of them is sitting here, and it's not Al or I. It's you.
Absolutely.
That's correct. I am the 3rd Blackhawk in NHL history to score 50 goals.
Bobby Hull,
Al Secord, and myself.
Wow.
I was the last one. I'm the last one to do it, and I'm the last, and still the last Blackhawk to score 50 goals still today.
Incredible.
Well, JR, let's cut through the chase, man. You scored over 1,200 points, over 700 assists, played in over 1,300 games, scored over 513 goals. Why aren't you in the Hall of Fame?
Because they don't like my character and personality. Plain and simple. They just don't like me.
Well,
there's no other reason.
I'm going to say it right now. We did all the stats. You know, Al and I looked at them. Benny looked at them. And there are so many players, and I'm not knocking other players at all, JR. This is not a knock on them. But you look at your stats, and one of the biggest stats is the plus minus. Your career plus minus is off the charts, which proves that you were just, you were a dynamic offensive player, but you were a checker. I mean, you played well in your own end. I mean, you were defensively, later in your career, you ended up being a defensive player, I think, with San Jose.
No, there's no. I'll give you a couple more stats, which are pretty cool. I rank 6 all time in the most Game 7 goals scored in Game 7s. 6 in the NHL, and 6 in history. Number 12 or 16 in game-winning goals in the history of the league. Those are very, very telling stats when you talk about, having clutch performances and being able to perform in high pressure situations. So, those are stats I'm proud of. And listen, I see stats of people that are in the Hall of Fame, and there are some stats that I just laugh at, to tell you the truth. And there's some people that have gotten in before me that I just shake my head, and I'm just like, I realize that it's more than just what you do on the ice. It's who likes you. It's personality. It's more than just what you've done on the ice. But again, if it happens, it happens. I would love to be part of the Hall of Fame. There's no question. I think, has it diminished for me a little bit? Yes, because my dad passed away in 2020. I would love to have my dad witness that. He should have witnessed it. My first eligibility was in 2012. It's now 2024. Yeah. I am 12 years bypassed, or 11 years bypassed. To tell you that there was not bad taste in my mouth, I would be lying. But it's still the Hall of Fame. It's still the last frontier of a pro sports, of a pro athlete's career. And some people can get there, some people don't. But I will tell you, everywhere I go, around the United States, Canada, no matter where I go, there is not one person that does not talk, who recognizes me, that doesn't talk to me on a daily basis, that doesn't say I should be in the Hall of Fame. Not one. And really that means probably more to me than anything else, is that the people who paid money to watch me, and the fans, whether they liked me or not, all agree that I should be there. And that means a lot to me. It means probably more than the 18 or 20 people that are on the board that are the ones choosing. And nothing against them, but if it happens, fantastic. It's going to be a great day. But I'm happy. I'm happy in 2024. And I know my career was solid. I know I put everything into my career. I know I put everything into every team. And I know that I gave every single fan every single aspect of my attention.
Al, should we start a crusade to get JR in the Hall of Fame? I think we need to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I tell you what, it's a shame that a guy of his caliber, his talent, his skill set, politically has not been inducted into the National Hockey League Hall of Fame. That's criminal. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Al, thank you. I think a couple of those words that you use are very, very well said.
Well, we do have a few questions right now from some of our viewers out there. So our lovely chat girl, Joni, is going to ask a few questions. So we're going to go to Joni right now for question number 1 for JR.
Okay, thanks, Les. So Paul from Chicago asks, what was it like to have Gordie Howe dump snow on your head when you were a 7-year-old?
Explain that one.
Yeah. Very easy. I told you I lived in Connecticut, and the Hartford Whalers were big. I was a big Hartford Whaler fan. I lived right down the street from the city. I played. I was a mite at 7 years old. I was a little kid, and I was playing in the local arena. And it was a Saturday morning. The Hartford Whalers had a game that night, and they actually practiced in the same local arena that I played in. I finished my game. All the kids took all their stuff off, ran back to the ice, and just were hanging over the glass, watching the pros shoot the puck and skate by, and all watching. And Gordie Howe was actually playing with his two sons, Marty and Mark Howe, which is pretty unbelievable if you think about it. Two sons playing with their dad in professional hockey. But I was just watching as these guys skated around, and towards the end of practice, Gordie Howe picked up a whole bunch of snow and came over to the side and dumped it on my head, and then ruffled my head and skated around, came back over and rubbed it all off, gave me a wink, and then proceeded on with his practice. Never even said a word, but with a smile and a wink and an acknowledgement, just gave me a story and made me feel like I was the king of the world. I told my parents what happened. I told my friends what happened, my teachers. It was the most unbelievable, kind of confrontation that I've ever had in terms of meeting or having, eye contact with a professional athlete. And it hit me, and it really made an impact on my life. And I'm 54 years old. I'm still telling the story. And I learned that a person of that magnitude in that situation, he can make a story for someone, or it could make a kid happy, or it could make a difference in a kid's life without even speaking, in 30 seconds and 10 seconds and 20 seconds, without having to say anything. And to Gordie Howe, dumping snow on my head was fun for him. It was nothing. It wasn't even like, it was no pressure. It was no effort. But to me, it was a lifelong memory, and it was influential. So I realized that what the powers of that position is of an athlete. And I tried to create mini stories of Gordie Howe with kids my entire career. Every time I'm on the ice, whether it was reaching my hand through the camera hole and taking some popcorn out of a kid's bag during the game, taking his hat and putting it on top of my helmet, shaking hands, throwing pucks over the glass, whatever it was, to bring the fan into the game, show them acknowledgement, show them appreciation, thank them for coming and watching, was very important in my life because of Gordie Howe.
That was great. I'd heard that story about, how great you were with the fans and in your playing career and after your playing career. And I think that story pretty much exemplifies that. So let's go.
I mean, I was at the Blackhawks game the other day, and it happens all the time.
Were you there for Chelios' retirement?
I was. It was amazing. But when I go to Blackhawk games, I miss most of the games because I'm stuck out in the concourse taking pictures or signing autographs, and I won't leave until everybody's done. You can't leave. It's saying no is not an option for me.
That's a great, Paul. Thanks for that question. That was a great question, Joni. Let's go with question number 2.
Okay, John Irwin wants to know: is Boston still home for you?
It's not. I live in San Diego, California. I moved out here during 2020 in the summer of COVID, and I love it. It's a small piece of heaven out here. I'm away from a lot of things. I still travel quite extensively, but I live in the best climate in the world, and I live near the ocean again, and it's a nice place to kind of rest my feet.
All right, San Diego, not a bad place. I know Dana Point. Dana Point's right up the street. Beautiful
right
place. La Jolla.
Yep.
La Jolla's got the best sushi around.
They're pretty good down there. My son lives in La Jolla, so I'm down there quite often.
Yeah, that's great. All right, great question there, John. How about question number 3?
Okay, Eric Mayer. He's another viewer. He says, and this is more of a comment, but perhaps you want to expound on that, Jeremy. As a North Star fan, I saw you play against Mike Modano many times. 2 of the greats growing up.
Any great stories about you and Modano?
We would be here for hours if I continue to talk about Mike Modano. Mike and I grew up together. He was a Michigan guy. I was a Boston guy. And it was always the conversation of who was the best American player at the time, whether it was myself or Mike. I still consider Mike the greatest American, most talented American hockey player of all time. I mean, to watch him was a thing of beauty. I always rated myself against him. Whenever I played him, I would always try to get the best of him. I would hit him as hard as I can. I'd try to score more points because he was my stepping stone. He was the guy that I always wanted to beat. He was the first draft, like I told you, he was number 1 draft pick in 1988. I was number 8 in 88. And, I had more points than him through the first 14, 15 years of my career. Injuries and just a lot of things that happened. He bypassed me after that 2005 season. But Mike Modano is he's the second American ever to score 500 goals. There's not many better players than Mike Modano. I played on USA teams with him. I played against him. I think I don't think our friendship is as strong as it should be because I knocked him out a few times, got suspended for hitting him at times, and at times took liberties on him. But I did it only because I respected him so much, and he was the echelon of greatness to me. And I felt that if I could beat him, that it only raised my status.
Some great questions out there. We'll go back to a few of those.
Expanding, yeah.
Now, you're known as a Blackhawk, and we understand that. You got traded to the Flyers, and you went to the Cup Finals with the Blackhawks. Unfortunately, you guys ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, the Penguins were pretty much ruling the NHL at that time. So, you run into them, but you go to the Flyers. You go to talk about passion. You go from an original 6 team to a team that has that incredible passion in the Flyers fan base and score one of the biggest goals in playoff history in a game that I think, Jeremy, you were involved in that game 6 against Toronto, where it was probably the best overtime I've ever seen. Talk about up and down. And then
I got to correct you a little bit real quick because I went from Chicago to Phoenix for 5 years.
Then to the Flyers. That's right.
So I went to Phoenix for 5 years, and then I left Phoenix. I left Phoenix as an unrestricted free agent in 2001. I signed with the Flyers, and that's where I really learned what rabid sports fans were all about. My relationship with Philadelphia Flyers fans were at as high a peak level as I think any professional sports player has had, especially in hockey. I played the game the way the Philadelphia Flyers cheered the game, and that's with all passion, all energy.
Here it is right here.
And this game right here was my most favorite goal I ever scored in my whole career, and I did it for the Flyers in 2004. This is Game 6 of the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Eddie Belfour is in net. It was Game 6. I scored the first goal of that game. It was 2-2 going into overtime. I'm sitting in the locker room just visualizing different things that happen in the course of a game. I visualized what I would do on a 2-on-1. Eddie Belfour, who I played with for 8 years, he knows I like to shoot in a certain spot. And I just thought to myself, if I have an opportunity on a 2-on-1, I know I'm not going to shoot where Eddie thinks I'm going to shoot. I'm going to take one top left corner, and I hit that top left corner. And you couldn't go any higher in that top left corner or put it any more perfect. And it ended the Toronto Maple Leafs season, and they didn't win a round in the National Hockey League playoffs for 19 years after that goal. So I just broke Toronto Maple Leafs hearts and propelled us into the conference finals of that season. And that was a year that we should have won. We should have won the cup. That was the best hockey team I've ever been a part of in the 2004 Flyers. Our roster was absolutely jam-packed with superstardom. Yeah. And if it weren't for injuries and some of our top guys being hurt, we had 2 or 3 forwards playing defense because of our injuries. We would have beat Tampa, who we lost to in Game 7.
Yeah, in 7, and they went on to win the cup.
They won the cup because they were playing Calgary. Whoever won that series between us and Tampa would have beat Calgary pretty easily, pretty handily. And we ended up, unfortunately, losing in Game 7 to Tampa that year.
Well, We're gonna do something before we go to our first break. Al and I have come up with something. This is going to be hockey's version of sudden death overtime, and we're going to ask you each 2 questions. I'm going to let Al go first. I'll go second, then Al, then me, and you can one-word answer however you want to answer it. We'll call it sudden death overtime. Then we'll go to our first commercial break. And Al, let's hit Jeremy with question number 1.
All right, JR. Some players play calm, they play excited, they play mad, they play angry. Channeling your emotions. What emotions help you play your very best?
Energy, excitement, energy, ego. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for a game to start because I couldn't wait either to hit somebody or get hit. I just couldn't wait for that to happen. And I was a guy that was very, very physical. I hit to inflict pain. I'm not afraid to tell you that. I hit to hurt, and I hit to really grab an edge and to put fear into defensemen. So that's I played on all emotion. Like my emotions were just, they were ego driven. They were winning driven. I was so excited. I couldn't wait to get on the ice to play in a game, night in and night out. And I think it showed by the way that I played, just the passion.
All right, I got one for you. First NHL fight, and how did you fare?
Ooh, I don't even remember the first fight, but I'm sure I didn't do very well because I was very small. I did have 44 fights in the National Hockey League. I don't remember them all, mainly because I got punched in the head too many times. I got too many concussions. But I've had some really good fights in my time. I fought Bob Probert.
Hey, that's
2 times.
That's pretty amazing because Bob Probert was one of the toughest guys.
That's suicidal.
It is.
That's suicidal. Yeah, I did that. I fought Craig Berube.
Oof.
I fought Martin McSorley twice. I fought Scott Walker, which is great. I fought Darcy Tucker a couple times. I didn't back down. I didn't back down from anyone, and I was always up for a challenge. I wouldn't say I was a good fighter, but I was definitely a motivated combatant.
Nice, man. I'll tell you one thing, Al. Some of these guys he mentioned are pure heavyweights. These guys could play D-line in the NFL, and he's throwing down with these guys. Unbelievable.
I believe it. Yeah, I know. I tell you what, I want to ask him about his body. I'll save that for later. But how about this one? The most embarrassing moment as a pro and the most memorable moment as a pro.
Most embarrassing? I don't know. I don't get embarrassed, Al. I don't get embarrassed. I remember playing the game, playing against Detroit, and I went to jump past the defenseman, and I actually got caught in his back, and I went skating. I literally went for a skate around the zone on this defenseman's back, and I decided to stay up there because it was actually a pretty funny situation, pretty funny moment. But I mean, embarrassing. Nobody really knew it had happened, but I remember losing my bowels on the bench one time in the middle of a game, and that didn't go over too well with my teammates, and I had to run into the locker room to change undergarments in the middle of a game, which was more embarrassing for me and my teammates, but the crowd didn't really know that happened.
That has got to be embarrassing.
What about your most memorable moment?
My most memorable moment was. I have a couple. I think the 91 All-Star game was my first All-Star game in Chicago, my home building, just after the Gulf War. The best anthem I've ever heard. I saw the most unbelievable patriotic fan base I've ever seen during that All-Star game. It was just at 21 was an amazing feat to be sitting next to Wayne Gretzky in the locker room in my first All-Star game at 21 years old. Scoring my 500th goal was obviously very inspirational to me. And, winning it, even though we lost in the 2002 Winter Olympic Games in the final to Canada, winning a silver medal is still something amazing, but to be on the final stage of the world's top sporting event in the Olympic Games. And, I can say that I was there. I didn't finish the job, but, USA was now known as a superpower in hockey because we were up against our arch rivals, the Canadians, and it was a nip and tuck all the way to the end. We lost 6-4, but there was an empty net at the end. It was an amazing feat. But that was probably my most proudest moments for sure.
All right, I'm going to give you my last one here. And we actually have some video, I think, of you scoring in the 2002 Olympic Games. But probably one of the things is going to be a bizarre question to ask you, but hockey guys know this. Besides your home ice at Chicago Stadium where you played when you first came up, which rink had the best ice? Because not every rink has great ice. The best ice you ever skated on, everyone says Edmonton. What do you say?
Edmonton Oilers, without question. Edmonton had the fastest, the hardest, the most crisp ice in the National Hockey League. There wasn't even a close second.
Wow. Okay.
And it made all the difference in how you felt. It made all the difference in how you played. It made all the difference in your confidence. And you knew that you're going to go in and you're going to get excited to get on that sheet of ice, because whoever that ice maker was up there in Edmonton, they were the guru of making ice. It was incredible. There's not even a close second.
Oh, that's what a lot of pros say. They all say Edmonton Oilers. Probably why Gretzky scored all those points. I don't know, but listen. Oh, there's a shot of you scoring for Team USA in 2002. I think it was. Tony got that up. So again, representing your country, Jeremy, it's got to be something, especially when we were growing up, because we're pretty much the same age. You're younger than I am, but we're in the same age with Al as well. And USA was not known as a power at all. I mean, I know the 1980 Olympics were a huge deal, probably the greatest upset in sports history, what we did there. But as you grew up and things like that, now you get the World of Hockey, the World Hockey Championships, the USA beat Canada, and now it's a massive rivalry in the juniors. I think we just won the juniors this year at the USA, and we have great players now that can match up with any Canadian players. You can argue right now that that USA is bypassing Canada in bringing out talent, and it all started in 1980 with Mike Ruzioni scoring that goal, with Al Michaels with that famous call, "Do you believe in miracles?" And it made me want to become an Olympic athlete, wanted me to become a hockey player. It made Mike Modano, made Chris Chelios, Brian Leach, John LeClaire, Billy Guerin, Tony Amonte, Heath Kachuk. I can go on down the line, Dougie Waite. I can go down the line to the people that culminated in 1996 when we won the World Cup. I mean, we beat Canada in the World Cup in 1996. All those players were inspired from 1980 games, from Mike Ruzioni. We go on to, the Olympics in 2002, that same group, and we spurred on the next generation of kids that watched us the way that we watched Mike Ruzioni in 1980. And now we've got the best goal scorer in the world right now, in Austin Matthews. Born in California, grew up in Arizona. We have Jack Hughes, who's could have been up for the Hart Trophy candidate last year, and he's battled injuries this year. But I was with Jack Hughes today. When we were talking today, he's here in Anaheim. I went up to see him at the pond, and the kid's just an amazing kid. We have probably one of the best group of American hockey players that we've ever seen, and it's getting better and better because USA Hockey is doing a better job of getting kids onto the ice and then preparing them for greatness. And it's really nice to see. When I played, it was 11% of the league was Americans back in the 80s and 90s. Today, there's 31% of the league is American hockey players. That is a massive, massive uptick in terms of the makeup of the National Hockey League. I couldn't be more proud of our guys. Well, when we come back, I want to get your analyst hat on, because that's what you did post-career, and I want to get your take on the NHL this year. The pretenders, the contenders. Who do you think is up for the Hart? Who do you think is going to be the MVP, scoring leaders, things like that? So let's do that. And we're going to bring Benny the Book as well on after this break. So we'll be back with more Jeremy Roenick after this.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition. Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. Excellent show. We've got Al the Rattler Chester every week. We've got our special guest, Jeremy Roenick, I think one of the greatest American-born hockey players. How about one of the best hockey players of all time, period. And we've got the book. Benny the book is in. And by the way, we're gonna promote this a little bit later on today. But Jeremy's got a little new endeavor here. And little libation.
Where's mine,
here for me.
Les?
Hey,
Where's mine? You left it at home?
Listen, I left my notes at home, but I didn't leave the important stuff at home. So a little whiskey in the wild. This is Jeremy. Why don't you just talk about this real quick, how you got this thing started and what you're looking to do with this?
Yeah, I'm really proud of it. This is my baby. This has been my latest endeavor that I've been really tackling. I'm a big whiskey fan. A lot of my friends do have spirits. I think it's just a really cool thing to have. I think it's a great way to entertain. I wanted to bring a lot more people into the whiskey world. I didn't want to have your old grandpa's whiskey that makes your face cringe and your neck and your throat burn. I wanted something that was going to be really pleasant to the palate. I have a chocolate orange and a chocolate whiskey that I think is one of the best drinking experiences of all times. And whether you like whiskey or not, this is something that will please you. 24 hours a day, and our launch has been unbelievable. We've been selling for 18 months, and we're just killing it. We're starting to go into more states now. Right now, we're online only at whiskeyinthewild.com. We just opened up New Hampshire, Massachusetts. I'm opening up Illinois in March. And I couldn't be more proud of what we have. We have a great bottle with a flask attached to it. It's awesome packaging. It's awesome marketing. And I'm sure that's what you're tasting right now. I'm sure you can't wait to tell me how good it tastes.
Can I just let's be honest here. And Benny, you know me. I am not a whiskey guy, am I not?
No, you're not a whiskey guy at all.
This is smooth. It's not ultra sweet. It's got some whiskey in it, but it's got the flavor and got the orange twist. This is outstanding. Yep. I'm getting another bottle when we go home. I'm ordering one. It's fantastic, and I'm not just saying that because you're on here. I'm telling you.
I can't wait for you to share it with me. You know,
the only problem with whiskey in the wild is keeping it in the bottle. That's the only problem.
Here's the flask right here. Came with it. It's fantastic. Took me a little bit to pull it off, Jeremy. I got to be honest with you, but
you got to do that. We put on a couple little sticky bands to keep it attached to the bottle because you got to be careful in the stores. We don't want people just coming up and slipping that flask off, putting it in their pocket and walking out of the store. So that kind of keeps it really on there, makes it a little bit more difficult to get it off. Once you do get it off, though, you're ready to rock. And there's not a time when I'm not on the ski slopes where that flask isn't in my pocket and I'm refreshing for my next run.
Well, I think I'll be doing this on my next golf tour. I'll be like, having a flask of this. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it. It took us 2.5 years to launch it after our initial idea, and it was well worth the wait.
Well, this is great. So anybody that wants to know more information, like I said, Tony was nice enough to put that up there, and we're running it up again before the end of the show. But like I said, I'm in North Carolina. I had it shipped. It was here within 10 days. They did an outstanding job. So just letting everyone know, if you're a whiskey drinker, you like it. If you're not a whiskey drinker, you're gonna love it. Just telling you. So let's put your analyst hat on, Jeremy. Okay, I'm a Bruins fan. I live and die with the Bruins. What are you gonna do? Last year's epic collapse, is it going to happen again this year? Do the Bruins actually break through, or are they just built for the President's Cup run and they just don't have enough when it gets to the playoffs? What's the deal?
Well, I think I was just as important and disappointed last year in the Bruins as everybody else, and shocked, to tell you the truth. It just doesn't matter what your season is like during the year. The parity in the National Hockey League is so good. It's so strong. and you saw the Panthers went all the way to the finals and played an epic, postseason. That was, I think, surprised a lot of people. I think Bruins do well this year. I think they need to make a couple changes and add a couple things at the trade deadline, which they always seem to do. Don Sweeney seems to be very good at poaching come the trade deadline, and I'm sure that they're going to be a little bit active on March 8th. But to me, I don't think they have what it takes to get all the way. I think the winner's going to probably come out of the West in Colorado. Colorado's too big of a beast of a team. You see what McKinnon is doing this year right now. He's tearing up the league. He's second in points in the league behind Kucherov. He's got a 29-game home point streak right now, where he has scored 61 points in those last 29 home games. I mean, this is dominance on top of dominance. So I just think it's coming. I think Colorado is the team to beat. Edmonton could show their face. The Rangers could show their face. But it's going to be a lot of fun watching the playoffs this year. I will tell you that.
Benny, who do you like?
Well, he's got a good point there. McKinnon is a spectacular. He's a spectacular player. But you get a hot goaltender. Anyone, like he mentioned the Rangers. They've been waiting for this guy to perform like he performed last year, and they're still in first place. I think Boston's going to learn from last year. I think they're going to go in with a little different attitude, and they got two very good goaltenders. I would pick Boston.
Boston's got a really, really solid team up front. They're three lines strong. I think their fourth line is a little suspect. Where I get worried is the defensive aspect. You have McAvoy, which is really good. I think they're a little bit small on the back end, which I think they will try to fix at the trade deadline. They might get somebody in there and as a bigger stature. We'll see what happens on that front. But their goaltending is spectacular. Allmark and Swayman are both awesome goaltenders. It's going to be real interesting to see if they do the dueling goaltenders again, or whether they just go with one until he loses it. I'm not a big believer in alternating in the playoffs. I think you ride a goaltender as long as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting to see which way Montgomery goes when it comes to who starts that first game come playoff time.
My question is, does Edmonton finally have enough? I mean, they've got such offensive, explosive players, from McDavid and Draisaitl, and I mean, they had number one picks every year, it seemed like, right? But even Zach
Hyman's second in
the goal. Zach Hyman 40 goals this year is pretty impressive.
I mean, but do they get there come playoff time, Jeremy? They just seem to always fall short, whether it's Skinner or defensive breakdowns. What happens with this team come playoff time?
Well, I think they have a different attitude this year. You can go down the list of the great offensive talent that they have with Draisaitl and McDavid and Evander Kane and Hyman. Their defense is actually an extremely underrated defense. That if they concentrate on playing the proper way, which is big, strong, move the puck, not get out of their comfort zone, this team could be very good. Their coach is have them believing. Their coach is allowing them to play the game that makes them more comfortable rather than coaching them. He's allowing them to be themselves. I think Edmonton is probably the second best team in the West, probably followed by Vancouver. Those three teams, Winnipeg is right up there. But Edmonton would scare me if I was playing them because Skinner is more confident. He's having a great year. Mm-hmm. I think his forwards have learned to come back and help defensively. I think they're all around a better structured team that can put the puck in the net in a big way. But if Connor McDavid doesn't score goals, and I don't care who else is on that team, it's showing it right now. Connor McDavid has not scored in 10 games. He's on a 10-game goalless drought, which is amazing. And the team is one game under 500 in those 10 games. So Connor McDavid is the key that makes that car run. And if he's not scoring goals, it's going to be very hard for that team to win.
Any surprise teams like that could go from 7-8 seed like Florida made that run last year? I look at like the Red Wings. I think he played really well. Dylan Larkin, a great leader.
Yep.
I love McKinnon because he, like I said, we talked earlier, I think, Jeremy, and I said, I think McKinnon's got a little Jeremy Roque in him, and you're like, he's not as physical as I was. But
well, he's not as physical, but boy, is he powerful.
He is.
Boy, is he fast. He's probably the most intimidating forward in the National Hockey League without question in terms of speed, power, aggression, talent. He blows everybody away in terms of his sheer skating power. He's almost impossible to stop when he gets rolling, and he changes direction as well as anybody. Just, he's a bigger, stronger kind of Connor McDavid like. Mm-hmm. I still think Connor McDavid is more talented, but in terms of the ferocity, McKinnon is amazing. You look at some of these teams that have a chance. I will tell you and this is a long shot. You want to say long shots? I mean,
Manny, go put some money on this. Put some money on this.
The Panthers. The Panthers were lucky to get into the playoffs last year. They got in the last game of the season.
Yeah, right.
They got in because Pittsburgh Penguins choked, one of the biggest chokes of the season last year in the last two games. All Pittsburgh needed to do is win two games, the last two games in the National Hockey League season last year. They had to beat the worst team, Chicago Blackhawks, and the second worst team in the league, which is the Columbus Blue Jackets. They lost them both, which allowed Florida to get into the playoffs. And then they were so happy to get in. They turned it on. They had nothing to lose. I see a team like Nashville kind of being in that same mental state.
I think they're on a 7-game winning streak right now.
They're on a 7-game winning streak. They're going to make a couple changes at the trade deadline. They're going to add some pieces. Don't count out a team that nobody has talked about all year.
Yeah, Saros is a very good goaltender.
Yep.
Jeremy, I got a question for you. Do you think it's harder to be a goal scorer now in today's NHL than it was when you were playing? Because I know they opened up the ice,
no red line.
No, yeah.
Yes and no. Yes,
but
and
the
no.
goaltenders, like, they're massive. They take up the whole net. I mean, you know.
Yes and no. This is two parts to this answer because it's very interesting it's a great question, by the way. The players today skate better. They are faster. Defensemen are more agile. They're bigger. They're stronger. They have better equipment. You're skating against four lines that all can skate. To score goals in the National Hockey League right now is very difficult because the goaltenders are big. The goaltenders are in shape. The goaltenders are agile. Their equipment is big. They're tremendously mobile. So it is hard. Although the rules of the game now allow the talented players to be able to score more. You can't touch anybody. You can't lay a stick on anybody. There are more penalties. You have 3-on-3 overtime. There's so many other things that come into play that the league has changed the rules that allow the talented players to get more space. And the way that these guys shoot the puck with the new technology, it doesn't matter how good the goaltenders are. They can't move that fast. The puck's going too fast. And when these guys have time to be able to shoot the puck like they do, they're going to score. When I was back in the 80s and 90s, you had to fight through guys bear hugging you, guys hooking you with sticks. You had so many different aspects that made it harder. What made it easier is the goaltenders were brutal.
Yeah. With
the exception of the top goaltenders like Brodeur and Roy and Eddie Belfour. And when they changed over to when they started getting in shape. I remember when I got in here in 1988, 89, goaltenders wouldn't want to go down on the ice because they were too out of shape. They didn't want to have to get back up, right? So it was a totally different style. Players weren't as good as skaters. So if you were a really good skater, you could get in the open and score goals like I did.
Yeah,
it's a totally different game nowadays. But if Connor McDavid played in 1985, I guarantee you the guy would score over 300 points because nobody would be able to catch him.
Right.
No one would be able to catch him. You put the rules today in 1985, you put Connor McDavid into the same players that played in 1985. Not a player would touch Connor McDavid. Not a player would touch McKinnon. He would score over 300 points easy.
Wow. Well,
JR,
you were good for at least
top
20
5
more.
players.
Right, Al.
Top 5 players
your
in the game
top
right
5
now?
players in the league right now. Yes.
Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, McKinnon, Kucherov, and Crosby is still just a freak of nature. He might not be top 5, but boy, can he play? It's the 5th one is Cale Makar. I said Cale Makar.
Pasternak.
I think Pasternak is in the top 10. I would put Cale Makar in the top 5.
Okay.
He is the Connor McDavid of defensemen. Mm-hmm. So I would say Cale Makar, Connor McDavid, McKinnon, Kucherov, and Austin Matthews. Those are the 5 best players in the league.
Well, before we let you go, we have 2 more questions from our viewers out there. So let's go to those real quick. And then I just want you to talk about your Chicago, the golf tournament that you run, JR, in the summer, because we're going to pull that up too. So, and maybe what you got. So, Joni, you got a couple questions?
I do. Paul asks, how long will it take to build the team around Bedard?
That's a great question. It's going to take a while. I've watched this team quite frequently. I've been to the last 2 Blackhawk games in Chicago. Bedard is an amazing talent. This is a kid that can control a game, can change a game. He's going to be a generational player. I worry about his size. I worry about his strength on the ice. I worry whether the confidence that he has around bigger players. He is definitely at a time in the league where he can prosper. Watching this kid is amazing. He can shoot as well as anybody in the league. His hockey sense is impeccable. This kid is going to be a superstar. Is he going to be a Connor McDavid? No, I don't think so. Is he going to be a McKinnon? No, I don't think so. But he's definitely one that is going to be a superstar that you can build around. It's a lot like what happened in the mid-2000s when Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews came into the game. If the Blackhawks finish last in the league again this year or close to it, they're going to get a chance to get that number 1 pick again, and it's going to be 2005, 2004 all over again when they got Toews and Kane, and they built around those guys and won a cup 5 years later. You're looking at a good 5 years in a build with a Connor Bedard that you're going to see a team that's going to be very, very dominant in the league with the Chicago Blackhawks. But I think the Blackhawks fans have patience.
Kid has a nasty release, Jeremy. I mean, unbelievable.
Nasty release. And he's a good kid, and he's humble. Obviously, he's young. I'm giving him breaks on, making mistakes. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt of not getting physical, of pulling out of very, very difficult situations in the corners. Nobody wants to get hit hard, especially if you're 5'10", 165 pounds soaking wet, which I think he is. He looks very small. He looks like he's a high school freshman.
Yeah.
But he plays like a beast when he gets out there and he gets some open ice. You can't give this kid open ice because he's going to burn you. He makes plays that is just unbelievable to watch. I'm really happy he's with the Chicago Blackhawks, and I think as he gets older, you saw what happened with Jack Hughes his first year and a half.
Tough on him.
Yeah, it was very tough. It was getting used to the pace. It was knowing what you can do, knowing what you can't do, getting confidence, gaining strength, growing your body into muscle mass. The same thing's going to happen with Connor Bedard that happened with Jack Hughes. And I think he's going to dominate like Jack Hughes did last year, where he probably should have been up for the Hart Trophy or pretty been close to it.
I agree. I like that. And I think Bedard's going to be an all-star. I don't think he'll be an iconic player, but I think he'll be a consistent all-star year in and year out. That's just my opinion on Bedard.
Yeah.
Let's go. Another question, Joni?
Yes, one more. From John Irwin. What about Pembroke Country Club?
He's going to ask you about Pembroke Country Club.
Did you get to play it very often?
Do you own
Pembroke it? I do. Well, I run it now. I own Pembroke for 13, 14 years. I sold the property but kept the business. So
Okay.
I still own the golf. I still own the golf course in terms of the business. It's where I kind of learned to play competitive golf. My mom and dad ran it for 13 years. I still go there whenever I get back to Boston. It is my baby, and we've been doing very well. It's a great course. It's a public course. It's not your glamorous country club living, but boy, it's a test of golf, and I've had a lot of fun owning it, and I've created a lot of new golfers and that have really grown to enjoy the game there.
How many strokes do you give Vince?
I got to give Vince at least two or three.
Okay.
Before, so 2 aside for Vince, maybe 3 now. I haven't played him in a while, but he's a great little player. He's a very good friend of mine. I remember playing in Tahoe one year, and we were walking down the 17th hole, which is the par 3 where all the people are, and we're crossing over the sand to get to the green, and I see a little gardener snake coming through the grass, and I pick it up and I turn to Vince and I throw it at him. The guy almost had a heart attack and conniption. He tried to run backwards so fast that he fell backwards with his feet flying up in the air. Okay. The sheer fear on his face when I threw a gardener snake at him is something I'll remember forever. I love Vince. He's a good man.
Yeah, and we have to thank Vince, obviously, because I know you guys are good friends, and he was able to hook us up. So, again, we appreciate Vince and all the support that he's thrown Swartz Talkin Sports. So now, Jeremy, you've got this hockey a golf tournament in Chicago during the summer, and Tony's going to throw up the website, your website.
Yep.
And I know you do have that. So kind of explain when that is normally and how much you guys have raised during this.
Yeah, so I've done this for about 20 years. It's all my friends in Chicago. It's called Helping Hands Network. This is my website. It's my JR hockey website. I have a hockey school. I'm actually doing a school this year for all females up in Northern Illinois, Wisconsin area. So I'm really excited about that. End of July, Helping Hands Network. We do a tournament every year, which is just an absolute treat for me. We raise money for Keshet, which is their a charitable foundation. Mostly we give to autism. We build homes for mentally challenged adults to give them the opportunity to live on their own, away from their parents with supervision, give them their own identity, their own freedoms to have the respect for themselves to live on their own and have, feel as close to having a real solid individual life as we possibly can. So it's a great network. We've raised over $10 million over the 20 years that we've been doing it. And,
very nice.
Yeah. So it's helpinghands.com. It's a tremendous organization.
That's outstanding. Like I said, I mean, everyone says you're a tiger on the ice, a class act off it, and we appreciate you coming on. I know it was tough. You did a lot to make the show happen tonight. I know you were going back and forth from Anaheim to San Diego, and we really do appreciate you taking the time and coming on tonight and really making this show special. So
it's a lot of fun. Thanks for plugging. I also have a streaming network called nofilter.net, and you can catch my show with Tim Peel, which is Snipes and Stripes, my podcast every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. What a pub that. I didn't know you had the podcast.
Yeah, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time on nofilter.net. It's Snipes and Stripes with myself and Tim Peel, who was a referee for 20 years in the National Hockey League. It's a really nice kind of it's a good mix of player and referee mentality and viewpoint of the game. We have a lot of fun.
There it is right there. We got it up there.
Yeah.
And
we have a lot of fun.
I have to say, this is outstanding.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Let's just say, listen, go to whiskeyinthewild.com, get the best chocolate orange whiskey that you'll ever have on the planet. You'll never drink anything else.
Man, we got a commercial. That's a wrap right there. That's a commercial. Well, listen, thanks so much. Have a fantastic week. And by the way, give me one pick. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup?
It's just Colorado. Colorado's going to win the Cup. You got Austin Matthews going to win the Rocket Richard, and Kucherov is going to win the Hart Trophy for the most valuable player.
The picks. I like the picks, Benny. I like the picks. Well, listen.
Yeah, sounds good.
We are going to be back with more Al and Benny. We're talking college basketball. Again, thanks so much, Jeremy Roenick, and have a fantastic week. And hopefully we'll see you again sometime soon.
Take care, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys.
Nice talking to you.
Man. And a living legend. You're a living legend.
We'll be right back after this.
I love it. Thank you.
High Tide Chiropractic, located in Leland, North Carolina, off Village Road. Dr. Levi Bradburn and his team specialize not only on spinal and extremities care, but also focus on sports injuries and a variety of chronic ailments. Treatment plans may include diet and lifestyle behavioral modification to achieve optimal health. Call us to schedule your free consultation, and we will design a personalized program to meet your needs. It's time to get the results you deserve.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz, joined by the Rattler, Al Chester, my co-host, and Benny the Book is actually the Book's ready to play cards right now, but he's postponing his game right now to be with us.
That's my weekly income. My friends are all waiting here to give me their money.
I love it. I love it. Listen, guys, great interview with Jeremy Roenick. Fantastic
really
player.
Professional. I got to tell you, after talking to the guy and looking at his stats, it's unbelievable that he's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I mean, it really is.
First thing Al said to me is, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame?
Like he said, they don't like me. How did they not like that guy? He seemed like a really genuine, stand-up professional, everything about him. The way he lives his life, his charities. That's wonderful. That the housing thing for the, autism, and because I had a close friend that had an autistic son, and they were planning to put him in one of those homes so he could live like a normal life, and he could take care of himself, but there would be supervision there watching him, but it would be as close to normal as possible. And
hey, he's a straight up guy, man. I tell you what, a class act and everything that you want in a Hall of Famer. I don't get it.
Absolutely,
I can tell you he's a no nonsense kind of guy.
Oh yeah,
no nonsense kind of guy. You don't kiss in the butt, and that's probably why he's not in. But I tell you what, he should be in there, no doubt about it.
Al, we're gonna make it a crusade. We got to get this guy in the Hall of Fame, and when he does, just like I'm doing the crusade to get you in the Black Football Hall of Fame, which is going to happen. And I'm going to
sound like a real
center.
hockey fan, like he played the game at one time.
Who, Al?
Al came up with some good questions,
some great questions.
Yeah.
That was great. Well, listen, so we've turned the corner a little bit. Now we're going to talk a little college basketball because we are in the sprint to the conference championships, which I think start next weekend. Yeah. And I've got my top 10, and we'll have Tony hold it up there for a couple of minutes, and we can kind of look at it. So this is just my top 10. This is not the NCAA or the ESPN's top 10. This is mine. And let's get your take on my top 10 right now, guys. What do you think?
Well, I tell you what, Les, your top 10 is similar to the current top 10. Right. Yep. It's just the numbers are mix and match with different teams.
Right.
And I tell you what, you got Houston is at 24-3, Purdue at 25-3, UConn is 25-3, and like you said, everybody right now is trying to get settled in, get ready for conference tournament play. But that's a good list right there, man. And I tell you what,
very good list.
I'm predicting, you're gonna have winners of teams out of the ACC, the Big 12, the Big East, and the SEC. I mean, they're rolling right now.
Yeah, I like the Big 12, very strong conference. And I like the Big East. They got some really good teams there. Marquette. I would like Marquette, but they're small. When they played Connecticut has the two big centers. Yeah. They just pounded them inside. I think Connecticut. They dropped out of the number one spot. I think one of those three teams that you have in 1, 2, or 3, Les, one of those teams is going to win it all.
Well, I want to ask, and I want to ask Al this question, Al, from an athlete standpoint, the Big 12, it's incredibly deep. It might be the best conference top to bottom. And I know they beat the heck out of each other every single week. Does it make them better come tournament time, or does it actually wear them down? Do you think it's maybe a detriment of playing just that kind of competition week in and week out? Will it make them better, or will it actually wear them out come tournament time?
Well, you know what? I think when it comes to tournament time, it's one and done. You know, what you want to do is get to that big dance. If you get that opportunity, I think that all bets are off. Now, when you talk about the competition that you played during the season, all that's good. I mean, you find out what your team is all about. You find out about the chemistry. You see how you mesh together. And you don't want to peak too early. But I don't think, unlike football, I think football, it beats you up a little bit.
That's
but
right.
basketball,
Absolutely. It's a different sport.
They're running and gunning, baby. Yeah. It's one and gun, and let's get it done.
You play football every week, and you play in the SEC, and those guys are pounding every week. No, they never get a break. In basketball, those teams, they play teams that they just blow them out of the thing, and they could play a lot of guys, and injuries don't, they do occur, but not like a football. Like, you get a major injury in football, it'll cost you a season. Look at the quarterback getting hurt in Florida State, blew their whole chance at the national championship. Well,
I see a couple potential upsets this weekend, guys. I get a couple potentials.
Yeah.
Okay, Iowa State, who's riding high. I love the Cyclones. But they got to go on the road after a big win last night. It was a tough defensive battle. They beat Oklahoma 58-45. They don't score a lot of points. But they're playing at UCF, University of Central Florida, who had knocked off Texas Tech on Saturday. That's a tough place to play. And Marquette's got to go on the road and play another very big team in Creighton, who's got and Kellen Bruner is their 7-1 center. And to your point, Benny, they don't have a lot of size.
They got a lot of team. They're very good.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's always challenging to go into somebody else's venue and beat them. You want to own your home court, though. You want to try to win all your games at home. Very challenging this time of the year to go into somebody's venue to try to beat them. But I tell you what, anything can happen. You got to put the ball in the hoop more times than the opponent if you want to get a win.
Kansas got beat this week. BYU went in there and beat them in Kansas. I was pretty high on Kansas laying 7. I thought they'd take care of BYU. BYU went in there and just hung with them, and then took them out in the end. I like, the more I watch Tennessee, I like
big game
them more
this
and
weekend
more.
at Tuscaloosa against the Tide.
They got a terrific connect. Is really good.
Alabama's rolling right now. I'm telling you.
I know Alabama's good. But Auburn is right up there. I mean, Auburn is one of the top 3 teams in that conference.
Now, I want to ask both you guys this question. I want to get Al's opinion first on this, okay? And this is a biggie. And it's what's going on in college basketball right now, women's college basketball, football. This whole storming the court. You see it happens every time now. It seems like every time somebody pulls an upset, they storm the court. You had Caitlin Clark, who got run over, I think, against Ohio State. I mean, thank she didn't get injured. But the kid, Filipowski, the big center, got hurt his ankle. I mean, guys, I know fans want to be part of this, and it's great. But, Al, I'm just asking you. You're in the college atmosphere. You're calling these games. I mean, come on. How do we stop this? This is not part of basketball, in my opinion.
I totally agree. The fan experience is important. That's how you sell tickets. You want people to be there. You want them to have a good time. But at the same time, we got to be civilized. And you can't allow the courts to be stormed and athletes get hurt on a humbug. Win or lose, it's dangerous. So somehow, some way, they got to find a way to control it. I saw where one school fined the conference fined the school for $100,000 or something. And that fine goes to the school that was the opponent who got stormed, I guess. But it's a challenging thing, man. But you got to protect the athletes. But at the same time, you want to have the fan experience to be good. College kids are just crazy, man. And when you get an upset like that, people have a tendency to do. The game is evolved and changed so much. But you got to protect the athlete. And at the same time, you want that fan experience to be there.
Yes.
But there's got to be, like, I'm thinking, Benny, do you find the team? Do you say, hey, listen, we're going to forfeit a game? Does that would the fans even care? I mean, listen, we're all listen. You go to college, These kids get liquored up. These kids are getting liquored up. They're lit up before they get in here.
Right.
I mean, for a Duke game, they're probably waiting, I don't know how many hours to get into Cameron Indoor, right? So they're all fired up and things like that. And it's just like the Wake Forest thing was crazy. I'm like, okay, you beat Duke. It's not like Duke was undefeated and ranked number one and you'd never beaten them before. I mean, act like you've been there, right?
You got to put the game into. It was Wake Forest against Duke, just like if it was NC State. That was a little more than just a regular game of a team upsetting. And they're on the verge. They're on the bubble.
Yeah,
they're right
rival.
on the outside. That was a very
Yeah.
very big win for them.
It was.
I mean, I'm sure they could get more security. I mean, that's what they have to do. For certain games, they got to just beef up the security.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well,
Or make an announcement before the game.
Well, what about? I want to talk about A&M's fortunes. So, Al, I know Florida A&M, amazing football season. I know the basketball season's been kind of challenging this year, right? But can the Rattlers make a run in their conference? I mean, is there a possibility that they do the impossible, make a run and take down, the top rung of the conference and maybe sneak into the dance? Can it happen?
Well, in the SWAC right now, Grambling is the top team.
Okay.
They take the top 8 to the SWAC tournament.
Okay.
Right now, mathematically, the men are out of.
They are.
Now,
okay.
our ladies basketball team, they're in the mix a little bit. They're in the catbird seat right now. So they got to finish up. They go to Grambling and Southern this weekend and then finish up with Bethune-Cookman at home on the 9th of March. The ladies have an opportunity, and we haven't been to the SWAC tournament in years. They have an opportunity to make that run this year. But the men, mathematically, they can be spoilers, play for a lot of pride. Coach McCullough lost a lot of players due to the portal. He had about 5 or 6 kids to break camp on him. He got a new bunch in there. Now, they're finishing up well. They played well the other night, the last 2-game winning streak. But it's a little too late right now to try to make a run at that top 8.
Your take, both you guys, your take on Caitlin Clark and what has she done to the women's game to really elevate the viewership? I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot of women's college basketball, but she's almost must-see TV for me when she's on. Al, what do you, Caitlin Clark, whether or not she makes it in the WNBA or not, what she's done in college?
Well, I tell you what, she is phenomenal. She can shoot that ball. She's Steph Curry with long hair. I mean, she comes across that court, man, and she can put it up. I heard and read where she shoots about 500 balls before practice and after practice. Wow. You don't just get that good just every day, just going out playing at will. But, I mean, she is a dominant force. She's got a great attitude, but she's got skill. She'll go to the next level and play, no doubt about it. She's probably making more money now, NIL money,
right? You're right.
She's probably
Al.
making the WNBA anyway.
She'll be sorry.
But she's a treat to watch, no doubt.
She is.
Yeah.
She just comes across. She is just like Steph Curry. As soon as they step past half court, she'll launch it just like him. Now
we're talking about FanDuel's coming to North Carolina. We get betting all over the place. First of all, Al, are you a wagerer? Do you bet on sports?
No, I haven't done
Me
that.
neither. Well, we got the book who does.
His contract says he cannot do that.
Book, let me ask you a question. Right now, you got to put a boatload of money on one team in the men's college game to make it to the Final Four. Not win it, but make it to the Final Four. Give me your one team that you're going to put everything
without
on.
a doubt. UConn.
Okay, UConn.
Yeah.
All right, Al,
I agree.
You concur? Okay.
I concur, without a
They
doubt.
got the coaching. They've got the chemistry. They lost 3 guys to the NBA, but they have a lot of guys that are coming back, and they got two sensational freshmen. So they got a very good mixture, and Hurley's a great coach. He just, there's certain coaches that are winners. They just know how to teach their kids.
Well,
they lost to Creighton. It was just one of those games.
It happens.
The kid from Creighton, the guard, he was coming across and he was just throwing 3-pointers up, and everything he was throwing up was going in. And before you knew it, I mean, they went from a tie game to down 18 in a matter of 2 minutes, it seemed like. And then it was just, they just wore off a little bit, and Creighton was all pumped up. Like Al said, it's hard to go into somebody's home, and you got to be really a lot better than them to take their home court advantage.
Creighton's tough. The Blue Jays are tough at home.
Yeah.
They're all tough at home, but that's one really, really difficult place to win, as Marquette's going to find out this weekend. But listen, guys, outstanding show. I thank you both for coming on. I know it's Thursday, not usually Wednesday, so I appreciate you guys moving your schedules around. Al, have a fantastic weekend in Jacksonville. Call that game this weekend. Benny, I hope you win some money in a couple of minutes.
I will.
And
we'll see you
guys. We'll see you guys
hey,
next
Al,
Wednesday.
Have a great weekend. See you next week.
Guys, next Wednesday,
night,
regular time, 7 p.m.
You got it. Take care.
All right, listen, I'll be back with the wrap after this.
Forever 24 Fit, Leland's only gym with 24-hour access. Get fit when it's convenient, utilizing Life Fitness, cardio, and weight machines. And for those of you who prefer free weights, there is a free weight area as well. Start your membership today and get on your way to a better you. 6 Happiness. Enjoy fresh Asian cuisine in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere where we believe good times deserve great food. Featuring the best sushi chefs in the Leland area. So come on in and we guarantee you will be delighted.
Welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm Les Swartz. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. By the way, subscribers, we're almost at 800. We need a few just to get to 800, I think, or is it 700? I'm confused. I think we're at 689. We needed, thank you, Joni. We need to get at about 20 more, 15 more to get to 700. Soon we'll be eclipsing 1,000. That's our goal here. So, again, thanks, everyone, for viewing and tuning in and giving us the comments. I love the comments. It's been great. We got a lot of feedback on the Eric Dickerson show, so hopefully we'll get a lot with Jeremy Roenick. So, again, I want to thank our very special guest for tonight, NHL legend, 9-time All-Star Jeremy Roenick, and his amazing whiskey in the Wild. It is really good. And again, I'm not a whiskey guy. This stuff is really good. For my Swartz Talkin Sports team, Al Chester, Benny the Book, Joni the Chat Girl, and my producer, Tony the Tiger Smeraldi. We'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. ESPN Wilmington Zone. Randy Slack on Sports, live next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Take care, everyone.